If, for example, the government increases its tax rate, how it will affect the aggregate output? What happens if the government decides that it must collect taxes of about 400 billion to balance the budget? Suppose if the government increases taxes by $400 billion, how this policy or how this strategy will affect the economic situation. For example, before taxes are raised, the economy is in equilibrium at the same point too. We are saying that okay, now the economy is at point 2 and the tax rate has not increased yet. From the discussion of the consumption function, we can say that taxes reduce consumption expenditures by MPC multiply T because there is still less income now available for spending. Look at here. We can say that MPC is equal to T. It means that with the increase in the tax rate, your consumption pattern will change. If there is an increase in T, it means your consumption expenditures are discouraged. In our example, the value of MPC is equal to 0.5. So consumer expenditures and the aggregate demand function shift downward by 200 billion. Why? Because when we multiply 0.5 with 400, it means that we are increasing tax rate by 400. But we have a negative sign with this term. It means that minus 200. If you are increasing the amount of tax by 400, so the level of output will decrease by minus 200. So the new equilibrium will be at point 3. Look at point 3. The level of output has declined by twice this amount. It means that you have increased the amount of tax by $400. So the economy will come towards point 3 in this figure, and the level of output has declined by 2 times this amount, and the new level of output is Y3, which is equal to $1,400 billion. Although we can see that aggregate output is negatively related to the level of taxes, it is important to recognize that the change in aggregate output from the 400 billion increase in tax is smaller than the change in aggregate output from the 400 billion increase in government expenditures. If we compare both the cases, in the first case, we are increasing government expenditures by 400, and in the second case, we are also increasing the amount of tax by 400. It is important to recognize that the change in aggregate output from 400 billions increase in taxes is smaller than the change in government the change in aggregate output from the 400 billion increase in government expenditures. If both taxes and government expenditures are raised equally, suppose if you increase the government expenditures or if the government taxes increase by the same amount, for example by 400 billion, aggregate output will rise. With the increase in government expenditures, we can get Y2 value for aggregate output, and with the increase in government expenditures, we can yield Y3 value for output. What we can conclude from this analysis? We can conclude that if both taxes and government expenditures are raised equally by $400 billion, aggregate output will rise. So the Keynesian framework indicates that the government can play an important role in determining aggregate output by changing the level of government spending or taxes. If the economy enters a deep recession in which the output drops severely and unemployment climbs, the analysis must have developed provide a prescription for restoring the economy to health. The government must need to increase its spending in order to raise aggregate output, or it could lower taxes. So that's why you can restore the economy to a desired level.